Wearing jeans and a plain white t-shirt, she entered the office wondering about a fancy car. The salesperson hatedly glanced her down and up. He said, "Sorry, but I think you're in the wrong place," pointing for the door. "These vehicles start at $300,000. Her face dropped with humiliation as other office staff members approached and clients looked at each other. She left silently. A Rolls Royce Phantom came up outside the workplace the following morning. The salesman's eye dropped out as the rear door opened. He never could have predicted it. The great luxury vehicles of Boston sparkled in dawn sunshine. Most individuals would only dream of owning the fleet of exotic cars the glass walls showcased. More costly than the last were Porsche, Bentley, Aston Martin, Ferrari. Margaret Collins, Maggie to those who knew her, walked through the doors with her red hair bouncing slightly with every stride. Her understated white t-shirt, well-fitting trousers, and little cosmetics revealed a woman who put utility before appearance. At 35, she radiated a calm confidence derived from knowing exactly who she was. Her modest look belied Maggie's founding and motivating role for the Collins Foundation for Children with Disabilities, which had turned thousands of young lives around. She had started the foundation from nothing and poured her heart and knowledge into special needs development to produce actual change years before she met her husband. His eyes went straight to a midnight blue coverlet as soon as he walked into the room, just ideal for his sister's 40th birthday. Caroline had always wanted a fancy car, and Maggie wanted to give her something really unique after defeating breast cancer last year. She may have it relaxed quite quickly. Though few others knew, her success with the foundation and her own assets had made her comfortable in her own manner. Blake Thompson straightening his navy frock and adjusting his blue headscarf across the room. He took great satisfaction in his ability as a store manager to identify serious buyers right away. He hugged and yelled to his coworkers when he saw Maggie dressed casually. That would be enjoyable. "Good afternoon." Maggie grinned at a young trader called Daniel who came up to her. "Welcome here at Boston Luxury Motors. Daniel here is me. Are you particularly interested in anything specific today?" Blake spoke out fast before Maggie could reply. "I will, Daniel," he told him. Then he turned to Maggie, his trained smile not visible to his eyes. "Are you looking for directions, ma'am?" Maggie's business day started with just that, a day that would see viewpoints altered for all those engaged. Maggie answered kindly, "I'm interested in that midnight blue car." She then walked toward the $285,000 car on the raised platform. The smile of Blake Thompson got nearer. People strolling into dreams of vehicles they could never buy had this before he had observed. He had no time for dreams as 3 major customers were expected that afternoon and monthly payments were piling. "That is the limited edition Azure," he said, stressing each syllable as though he were speaking to a young child. "Just 15 were produced this year. Maybe I could point you our used car section. About 3 blocks west they occupy a different structure." Maggie saw his eyes flitting over her basic wardrobe, dangling off her trainers. She knew these assessments were normal. Most people were unaware that she consciously selected this way of life, discovering freedom and simplicity even though she was surrounded with extreme luxury. "I'm curious about this more." She stayed humble. "Is it possible to see inside?" Blake asked with a deepening tone. 2 traders behind him shared knowing looks. "The Azure is by aiming just," he said consecutively. "Usually, our serious clients schedule personal visits." A handful of people wearing fancy clothing entered just then. Blake's messy state changed right away. "Please pardon me," he muttered to Maggie, not actually looking at her. "Why not you open a ticket? For that, Daniel can assist you." Arm outstretched and inviting, he moved toward the couple. "It's great to see Mr. and Mrs. Harrington back off." The youngest merchant, Daniel, came up to Maggie grinning contritely. He seemed excessively huge in his outfit. He couldn't have been more than 25. "Apologize about that," he murmured softly. "Would you like to know about the Azure?" Maggie asked. "I would, thank you." Maggie saw Blake guiding the well-dressed pair straight to the Azure as Daniel fervently detailed the features of the vehicle. He gently opened the door, beckoning Mrs. Harrington inside. The same car he claimed was used for pointing. "That's quite good," Maggie reassured the increasingly awkward Daniel. "I know how these things are operated." Blake was executing his well-practiced sales technique throughout the showroom. Although this model has an 8-month waiting list, I have reserved one for especially valued clients. Mrs. Harrington ran her hand inside the leather. It's wonderful, but I'm not sure about the color. We could certainly discuss custom options, Blake said. Maggie gently walked up, standing exactly inside an ear chamber. She answered, "Excuse me. I was here waiting to ask about buying this model." Blake's face became black. "As I mentioned before, this vehicle is being shown to these customers," he remarked very impatiently. "Perhaps you could come back again, or, as I advised, look over our used car choices." The couple appeared uncomfortable between Blake and Maggie. "I'm specifically interested in this car," Maggie replied coolly, "for my sister's birthday next month." Blake left the Harringtons and lowered his voice. "Look, I know people dream, but this is a business environment. That car outfits most homes in cost. I am patient now, but you are stopping a valid sale." Several of the surrounding clients stopped to watch the uncomfortable conversation. Daniel hurried toward the border. Maggie remarked, keeping her cool, "I'm ready to make a money purchase today." Blake then totally broke his career trend. He laughed, a brief, fierce sound resonating across the space. A number of horses reversed direction. A financial grab? Certainly. His voice now was louder, meant to embarrass. "It's not $1 million buyout here. We have $250,000 under discussion. Those who can afford these cars dress unlike—" He gave his garments little thought. That's it. Maggie felt her nose open, not from shame, but from a steadily mounting anxiety. Not for her either. She had experienced this treatment before, but for everyone who had been assessed on their appearance, she responded coolly, "I think my money's as good as everyone's." Blake came in closer. "To be clear," she said, stopped attempting to cover her humiliation. "You are pregnant and squandering my time. Either leave the buildings, dress accordingly, or arrange a meaningful conversation." The showroom had turned silent. Clearly uneasy, the Harringtons had got out of the automobile. "Is there a problem here?" A younger voice entered the dialogue. The ruckus drew Richard Mason, the owner of the company. Blake went up to her. "No trouble, sir. I'm merely letting this woman know that we work from a list of serious buyers." Richard Mason evaluated the matter fast, considering Maggie's looks and the onlookers. It was abundantly evident from his demeanor which side he was supporting. "I see," he replied. Maggie wanted Mrs. Collins to ask. "Collins, Margaret." "Mrs. Collins, maybe there has been misinterpretation. Typically, our customers—" "Well, they are aware of how unique our cars are," Maggie answered. "I understand perfectly." His voice drew nearer even as humiliation burned in his chest. His business manager had written rather explicit policies. Blake bent in closer once more. His voice tightened with disdain. "Should you be actually interested, which I doubt, you can request a spot. I would advise, though, wearing the part and including documentation of income." He gestured around the room, pointing out these vehicles for a particular type of individuals. A whisper emerged among the viewers. Someone came up. Maggie glanced around the courtroom at Blake's austere countenance, at the manager's implicit approval of his staff. She had experienced prejudice before, but hardly so obviously, so publicly. "I understand," she said, not elaborately. Her dignity preserved, but her spirits damaged, she turned and headed for the living room. She heard Blake behind her. It lacked sufficient silence. Others simply didn't know where they fit. Maggie pulled out her phone as she battled the stairway doors into the morning sunshine. The humiliation shattered, but as she dialyzed, she developed a little, smug smile on her lips. 5 quiet acres of the Collins estate lay outside Boston. Its simple beauty revealed nothing of the billions behind its ownership. Alexander Collins liked it that way. At 41, the digital visionary had transformed renewable energy storage technologies and amassed money while purposefully keeping a quiet profile. Alexander turned from his desk and instantly set aside his work when Maggie entered his office. 15 years of marriage had helped him to precisely interpret her expressions. There seemed to be a flaw. "What took place?" she was asked. Maggie sat in a leather chair across the table, the events of tomorrow flooding her once more. "It was interesting," she remarked, her smile not reaching her sight. She related to him her office experience, the condescension, the humiliation, the discrimination. Alexander's face clouded as she spoke, but she said nothing to give him time to comprehend it. "I don't care," she said. "Although it gives me great privilege to come forward and discover the truth, how many others are treated this way daily without the solace of knowing they could possibly pay what they are accused of?" Alexander gave a careful cry. This is what always touched him most about Maggie in their years together, her constant compassion for others, even if she had been wronged personally. "How then would you want to handle it?" when he asked her at last. She said, "Part of me not wants to do anything. She merely bought Caroline's gift somewhere. Then I remember that young man, Daniel, who treated me respectfully regardless of my attire. And I consider all the people subjected to such kind of criticism without any means of defense." She fixed Alexander squarely in the eye. "These folks have to realize that appearance has nothing bearing on value. I want conscience, not retribution." Alexander murmured quietly, developing a strategy. "I believe I may have a concept that satisfies both of these needs." Knowing her instincts, Maggie said, "Nothing too dramatic. Not to buy the company and destroy everyone." Alexander burst out laughing. Nothing so cliched, but maybe he got close. Perfect weather on a drive early the next morning. Blake Thompson corrected his blue signal and confidently entered Boston Luxury Motors. The scenario involving the trapped woman yesterday turned into a humorous story he told over beers with his friends. Still another dream, one in which I felt I belonged in the luxury world. The showroom sparkled beneath the well-placed lighting. To best create their effect, the exotic automobiles were placed deliberately. Emphasizing the need of properly qualifying clients, Blake had just ended the morning staff meeting. Recall, he had given the sales crew instructions. "Our time is valuable. We attract a particular customer base. It is effectiveness rather than elitism." The young trader Daniel had been quiet at the conference, clearly uncomfortable. Blake mentally noted he should have a word ready to discuss appropriate client advice. Outside, everyone turned to pay close attention at exactly 10:17 a.m. to the strange sound of an engine. Like any other car, Florida's Cell's glass view revealed one stopping exactly in front of the main door. Discussion stopped with the word. Even Blake, usually drawn to expensive cars given his everyday proximity to them, found his pulse quickening. A longer wheelbase Rolls Royce Phantom. Not any Phantom at all. This was a customized model with a midnight blue finish that appeared to alter in sunlight. Its worth to curators would be north of $1.2 million. Is that true? The owner, Richard Mason, had come out of his office drawn by the instant hush. "A Phantom?" Blake affirmed. It was sliding toward the door already. An exceedingly odd arrangement. Stepping off the Rolls Royce, a uniformed chauffeur moved precisely to open the back passenger door. From the car sprang a man with a strong presence. Tall, immaculately dressed in a suit that screamed rather than yelled his five-figure shape. His posture was easily dictatorial. His salt and pepper hair was exactly groomed. Blake's gut feeling turned on high speed. This went above a decent average. These were the types of clientele the offices were vying for, those whose purchases included not only a car, but maybe a lifetime connection valued in millions. "Good day, sir. Welcome to Boston Luxury Motors." Blake answered a call from the esteemed visitor before any other buying agent could get here. "Blake Thompson, manager of purchases. Having you with us today absolutely makes me happy." The man stared at him with an incomprehensible face, then grinned in a direction he couldn't see. "Alexander Collins," he said, giving a stiff hug. Blake moved in closer. Though he couldn't put it right away, the name looked familiar. Still, the Rolls Royce said volumes on the man's financial situation. "Mr. Collins, one feels immense honor from this. Why are you here at our little facility today? I could show you our most recent arrivals, perhaps. We lately got a limited edition." Alexander slowly raised his hand to slow Blake's trained rhythm. "Actually, I'm here looking for a particular car, the Midnight Blue Coupe Azure." Blake's grin grew more expansive. "Great choice, sir, among only 15 created this year. I would be glad to show you. Actually, it's just over." "I am sure where it is." Alexander broke off gently. "Yesterday my wife came here showing interest in it." Though uncertainty flickered in Blake's eyes, his customer service grin stayed constant. His mate? I seemed to forget. Perhaps one of my counterparts assisted her. Alexander's expression softened somewhat. No, Mr. Thompson. She got help from him. Actually, she turned down as well. Collins, Margaret. She had on white t-shirt and jeans. She should be more at ease viewing used autos, you advised. Blake's blood flowed from his face as he came upon it. He heard a little yell behind him from Daniel, aiming close by. Mr. Collins? Blake was surprised. His usual soft voice turned deserting. There has to be some ambiguity. Welcome to every client gathered here. Richard Mason had approached by now, seeing a growing problem. Is everything all right, Blake? Alexander looked at the proprietor. Mr. Mason, I suppose? Martin Mason. Sure, indeed. Welcome from Boston Luxury Motors. Thank you. Just letting Mr. Thompson know. My wife visited yesterday looking to buy the Coupe d'Azur as a present for her sister. She did, however, treat herself in a way I feel to be distressing. Richard's attitude shifted from friendly to worried very fast. That bothers me. Though I wasn't aware of all the specifics, I believe I participated momentarily in a conversation. Alexander shouted deliberately. The specifics include your sales manager here implying, based just on her casual wear, that people like her do not belong in an institution like this. By now, a small audience of fellow salespeople, support workers, and even some inexperienced clients had assembled. The room had turned absolutely quiet. Colin. Blake started, yearning his voice. Should there be any misinterpretation, it was not one. Daniel got up quickly. Every eye turned to the young salesman, who seemed shocked by his own bravery. Mrs. Collins mistreated herself. She was modest and precise about her taste in azure, and she was routinely turned away based alone on appearance. Blake looked at Daniel desperately, but damage was done. Alex went back to Richard Mason. You know, that's intriguing. Found and run by my wife is the Collins Foundation for Kids with Disabilities. Her life's work began before I came to know her. She has leased around $50 million for educational initiatives and specialist medical equipment. He stopped and let this sink in. Maggie decided to dress simply since she values living modestly despite our income. She finds it keeps her close to the families she works with. I love her for this, among other things. Richard Mason had darkened his life. Mr. Collins, I can tell you this does not represent the principles of our company. We consider ourselves to be actions louder than denunciations of the mission, Mr. Mason. Alexander gave a strong interruption. Now, regarding Azure, I'm not here to just buy a vehicle. Blake leaned a bit closer, a glimmer of professional hope bursting through his chaos. Maggie had intended for my wife, sister, to purchase the Azure. But I was also thinking about a fleet update for our company vehicles. 7 in all, and my own collection may benefit from the improvement as well. Mason's eyes grew wider. That kind of sales would allow them to meet their quarterly goals in one deal. Alexander went on, though, and I wonder if this is the appropriate environment for a commitment this size. There was total stillness in the room. Blake seemed to be physically sick. Richard started furiously. Mr. Collins said, I am not enough in apologies for this regrettable incident. I guarantee you this is not our business model. Kindly let us handle things as they should. Alexander briefly gave this some thought. He remarked at last, there may be a way forward, but it would take more than just selling me automobiles. What? Richard answered fast to confirm it. Next month is the fundraising banquet for the Collins Foundation. We are collecting money for a brand new adaptive sports complex for kids with physical limitations. The sales manager, Blake, grew embarrassed. I suppose his presence would be instructive. Blake stayed firmly. Sir? Alexander asked, clarifying, not as a guide. The foundation constantly looks for volunteers to assist with design, witness firsthand the work being done, or aid the kids. The ramifications were obvious. It went beyond merely marketing automobiles. It was about grasping a basic lesson on human value. Alexander then went on to Richard Mason, suggesting that the sale might take unconscious bias training into account. I know several outstanding consultants, Richard yelled angrily. Certainly, embrace this project. Alexander looked at the automobiles, then at the young dealer who had spoken. Starting with the Azure for my sister, you should tackle the whole position. Daniel's eyes went open. Thank you, sir. I would honor you, Alexander answered. Good, with a certainty. Alexander stopped in front of the Azure as they headed toward Mason's office. Now, shall we discuss the specifications of the corporate fleet? He rested his hand on her exquisite form. Right? My wife has great taste. Blake Thompson remained motionless behind them. His ideal universe underwent basic change. At last, the actual reality set in front of him. He had exposed his character by how he treated people he considered to be essential, not by how he treated those he believed weren't. A month later, the Collins Foundation benefit dinner turned the Grand Boston Hotel into a celebration of possibilities. Children with different disabilities and their families teamed with supporters, doctors, and donors. Blake Thompson, dressed in his office uniform instead of his customary professional wear, guided visitors and helped a tiny child in a stroller at the door. He has undergone a transformation in the past month. His voluntary work with the foundation started out as a duty, the cost of survival in business. But when he saw the daily struggles these kids go through and the decency with which they treated each other, something unanticipated occurred. Maggie Collins, graceful and sporting a basic blue dress, walked across the room to meet him. Blake was again stunned by his lack of pretense, even knowing who he was now. Blake remarked, "How are you finding the experience?" He gave the problem great thought. "Humble," she said at last, "and necessary." Maggie turned to grin. She said, pointing to the stroller's occupant, "You seem to like Thomas." Blake admitted he was learning about adaptive basketball from him. "I seem to have horrible form." Maggie laughed really honestly about this. "He is a straightforward coach." Blake's countenance grew grave. "Mrs. Collins, I had to express it straightforwardly, even if I formally apologized. I really am sorry about how I treated you. There's no justification." "You're good," she remarked, but without contempt. "What have you discovered, then?" She said carefully that everyone deserves respect until they try again, not the other way around. Looks, position, or rank does not define that value. "Good lessons," Maggie explained. "They also cost a lot, I guess." Thinking of the significant business the company had lost when Alexander Collins chose to purchase just the Azure rather than the extra fleet, Blake grinned fiercely. "Worth every penny," he answered honestly. Alexander joined them across the room and gently rested his wife's back on. Blake was merely imparting some knowledge, Maggie clarified. Alexander yipped. "You have stayed rather active in the adaptive sports program, I hear. Indeed, Mr. Actually, I promise to keep helping after my mandated time ends." He paused, then replied, "I'm glad to hear it. I've been working with Mr. Mason on revamping our client approach in the office. No more qualifying by appearance. Daniel says highly of how you've been training Blake, then surprises him by adding, which reminds me of that corporate fleet I mentioned. We're still in the market. Perhaps you could handle that transaction." Blake's face showed surprise, then turned to sincere thanks. "You would be revered, Mr. Collins. Really privileged." Later that evening, Blake observed Maggie and Alexander Collins interacting in the room, not flaunting their riches or power, but rather really interacting with every child and family as the event was being disassembled. He considered how utterly his view had changed. Based on her casual look, he would have discounted someone like Maggie Collins a month ago. Now he saw that real gratitude transcended fancy clothes, luxury cars, or executive designations. Blake screamed at Thomas after he helped him back to his car following a photo session. "You know, Mr. Blake, you're fairly attractive for a grown man." Blake graced his face. And he meant it. "Coming from you, Thomas, that's the loudest applause I've received in a long time." We all form opinions based on appearances, do we not? But as Blake Thompson found, looking past appearances can expose remarkable people and chances for life transformation. Should this narrative speak to you, kindly click the subscribe button and follow us in our community of tale aficionados. We would enjoy your comments in the space below. Have you ever evaluated someone based just on their appearance or criticized yourself? Your life events can motivate others. Furthermore, keep in mind that your money account has little bearing on the actual definition of riches. It's about how you treat other people when you believe nobody significant is observing. See you in our future narrative where still another instructive lesson waits.